There's like a lot of talk about mobile games at GDC. And by the way, in 2000, ringtones were a bigger business than mobile games.
Right.
But what the blockchain does provide is this provable, economically adversarial environment. So it is a lot like, in reality, for a nation to have sovereignty, they need to have the means to protect. Autonomy and sovereignty are not really given, they are earned. Online is now celebrating 23 years in May, and it's quote unquote just on a database. Everyone is asking us, so when is EVE 2.0 coming out? And it never felt like that should be a thing.
But yeah, you were saying about the PC Gamer article.
Yes, so it actually reminded me. So I come first to GDC 2000. It's still in San Jose, sorry. Actually meet Dean Takahashi there.
Yes.
I was just talking earlier this morning. I meet him there.
The legend. I look up to him so much from journalism.
So I meet him for the first time. And at that point, there's like a lot of talk about mobile games at GDC. It's going to be huge. And by the way, in 2000, ringtones were a bigger business than mobile games.
Right.
And then like GDC is talking about mobile games like 2001, 2, 3, then 2005, stopped talking about mobile games.
Yeah.
And then obviously iPhone comes out, App Store comes out, 2010, and here we are. What is the topic of GDC is maybe not like super correlated with what is eventually going to happen.
Yeah, and it can be because maybe they see the technology, but they see it before it's ready.
Yes.
And then we have that moment where, you know, all the people who saw the opportunity or the inevitability, you know, the form factor delivers itself.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I view what's happening with blockchain. We're just so early, but the idea of it is really sound, and I'd love to just like kind of get into it. I mean, I've read some of your articles, I was listening to some of the interviews, and it's so rewarding that you see the potential of blockchain. And so you've kind of talked about this like forever game.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, you know, how you see blockchain enabling a forever game.
So, I mean, I think often people focus a lot on the kind of decentralization and all those kind of aspects. And I think they are maybe important in the very, very long term.
Yeah.
I think you have to be going on for decades before that really starts to kick in. Just like we see with EVE Online. EVE Online is now celebrating 23 years in May, and it's quote unquote just on a database. Yeah. So I mean, obviously you can go on for decades without that. But when I think about like the very long timeline, then at some point, these kind of centralization points, they start to become like fragility points in the long future.
Right.
And I think often people were maybe overly emphasizing that when people were thinking about blockchains, etc. Because, I mean, of course, it comes a lot from Bitcoin being unstoppable and things like that. And their decentralization lays down those foundations. But the difference between Bitcoin and a game or a world, as we think about it, is like a lot more like a world. There's like, okay, here's a very thin, simple implementation of just storing values of Bitcoin versus like, okay, here we have a world you can almost live in and you can program with the dev team, etc. So I think that is perhaps important in the very long timeline. What we are seeing as the more immediate benefit is, of course, kind of the modding platform they have created with smart assemblies and all that. Because there, the fact that without permission, a player of the game can create a new feature to the game, read and write to the world states, obviously subject to digital physics, as we call it, hook it up to a smart assembly, and anyone can use that now as a new feature of the game. That is kind of where I think the immediate benefit comes through. Because if you were to do that in a single-sharded MMO, you would have to create some layer of smart contracts. You would have to have them sound in what I call like economically adversarial environment. And I mean, this blockchains have proven that they are a good tool for, because like every blockchain is an economically adversarial environment, and they have largely held up I mean, since kind of Ethereum comes out with
Yeah.
smart contracts. Of course, people have built all sorts of things and they have not all worked.
Yeah.
But the basic kind of affordances of the blockchain have more or less kind of been something you can rely on. And we have definitely seen that, whether we're building on Ethereum or Sui.
Yeah, I want to get into all that because I think it's so fascinating. I just, before we do, I would just to jump back a little bit. We are at GDC, or now the Festival of Gaming.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, Hilmar, how you view AI and blockchain, and what you think the traditional gaming industry is getting wrong about these technologies.
I think when people were thinking about blockchain and games, they were thinking a bit, okay, here's a piece of tech. Usually games are really good at sort of proving out technology, things like that. I mean, games have given us GPUs, and I mean, in many ways, AI.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the storyline
Right.
of artificial intelligence overall, it's interwoven with games, especially when you take chess and Go,
Yes.
which are literally games. I mean, that's where a lot of the advances have been kind of through playing games. So that is interwoven. And I think when people see something like a distributed ledger, etc., how will games work on that? And what was kind of immediately obvious to me when I saw people make something of it is that ultimately almost whatever you make is some kind of an MMO. MMOs are probably the hardest thing you can do in games.
Yes.
So when I've seen some of the waves of people trying to do it, I mean, just like almost any attempt to make an MMO, I mean, there are rare few attempts at making MMOs that have really worked out. Obviously, Eve is one of those, but I mean, there are not so many others, and just like doing it with more traditional sort of database approaches.
Right.
So maybe it isn't super surprising that nobody has figured out all the things,
Yes.
like the gameplay mechanics, getting a good game. To begin with, is super hard. Then do all the open economy aspects. Then, okay, what is really the benefit of the technology in the first place? Like we're doing with the modding and the smart assemblies. Like there's just a lot that you have to reason through
Yeah.
for this to be anything that people want to engage with.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, we're very much hoping to crack that code. But I can tell you, and I come quite well prepared, it is quite a lot to crack.
Yeah, I can imagine, and that makes a lot of sense. You guys have the expertise, the domain knowledge, the background, the history. You've been doing it, and speaking of, I mean, EVE Online, 23 years, and you're having like some of the best revenue quarters, years of all time. So massive congratulations. What has stood out to make that successful?
I mean, it's a lot of mostly little things.
Yeah.
I would say it is just doing the basics well. Focusing on the little things,
Yeah.
also inspire people with new things which are happening in the game.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, when the community is in a good place, they also start to do amazing things. I mean, part of what was happening at the end of last year that really drove a lot of like uplift in EVE overall was this. There was a big war breaking out. And I mean, war is good for the economy in EVE Online, and unfortunately, sometimes in reality also. So it was a combination of many things, but mostly just getting the basics very good. And you would think, okay, after decades of doing this, are we still, it's just like the basics are always, it's like with anything really in life.
Yeah.
Like it ends up just, whether you're making an MMO or whether you're making a sushi, like really nailing the basics.
Yeah, I mean, there's beauty and wisdom in the simplicity and the fundamentals, right?
Yes.
But just double clicking into that a little bit, what are some of those basics, I guess, in how CCP is run as a studio, your approach to the game, the community, that relationship?
Yeah. I mean, the basics in that sense is a lot. The processes we use to align what we're doing with the state of the community. And I mean, obviously there we have the Council of Stellar Management, which is a hugely important tool, which we actually, I mean, it's a little known fact. The first Council of Stellar Management meeting of EVE Online actually was before EVE Online comes out. And thus, I mean, we have started that for Frontier already. There's like a Luminaire Council already, kind of like we had even in the beginning. It's very important tool set to kind of align and get feedback and all that early on. Then we run something called the community sentiment meeting, which is run by our community team, which is a very organized process of like surfacing issues, where we like severity scope, like, and a lot of really good work from them on like, okay, what is going well? What did we expect? What was the outcome, etc.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to make difficult changes,
Yeah.
and we know people are not going to be happy, and I mean sometimes that is needed, but sometimes we also think something is going to be good, and maybe people are kind of meh, and then something we weren't really paying attention to really rises up. That process is super important.
Yeah.
Also from our customer support team, they have kind of the inbound for people having issues with the game, prioritizing things there, and like getting just all these processes like really connected up and smooth, and that improves our targeting. Then like stretch that over to more long-term roadmap. Now we're entering a long roadmap, which is building on another long roadmap called Theaters of War, which is kind of built on our work on factional warfare. That now is the kind of foundation how we link EVE Online and Vanguard together. We now have kind of a sketched out 3 next expansion on how we kind of bring out the Theater of War in EVE and into Vanguard, and how you could be like fighting in the sky and on the ground, and sort of the fleet does the flying and the Marines do the dying, kind of Starship Trooper style.
Yeah.
And you can get to those levels of narrative with the community.
Right.
Again,
Yeah.
if you get the basics right.
Yeah.
Then you can build on top of that.
Strong foundation. I love
Yeah.
that. I'm so curious about this. And as you said it, it just made me think about this, because we're in a state with gaming where so many player bases feel so disconnected and detached from the game studios. Or the studios feel, disconnected and out of touch and maybe not listening to the player bases. Gamers love to complain, of course, but is it something just in the DNA of CCP and your love of the game and what you're doing that creates that? Do you think that it's something about the player-owned economy and like the specialness of EVE Online that creates that?
I think if you look at any company that has been doing these kind of experiences for decades, you will find a company that has learned it through some means.
Yeah.
Even if the process of getting to the good place can sometimes even be a bit traumatic.
Yeah.
It's not like it's been perfect
Yeah.
in the story. People
Yeah.
have written long documentaries about like all the things that have, all the drama of EVE Online inside and outside and all around. And I think from that, you just like, you adapt. Like the organism that is CCP just grows up in that environment. So we're like a species of a company that is just grows in the environment of having extremely passionate players. So I think we are more a product of that environment rather than some like masterful strategies, etc. And I think you find this in most of the companies that are running games for decades. They either kind of evolve to become what they need to be to do it, or they're just no longer here. I think, I mean, if you see anyone that's run an MMO for 10 plus years or 20 plus years, you will find a company that really has got into a good place with it.
Yeah, that connection is so strong. It's fun too, because you're a part of the story the entire way through, the ups and the downs, and that relationship is so deep. And that's that's what people love about EVE Online. It's for some people a lifelong game, and will continue to be a lifelong game.
Yeah.
I want to talk about EVE Frontier, because I was watching one of your interviews and you were talking about, for years, people were asking like, EVE 2, you know?
Yeah.
And EVE Frontier is a major development from CCP. It's a major, I don't want to say risk, but it is you guys going out and being on the frontier of this new technology. Why EVE Frontier? Why was this something that you guys wanted to make?
Yeah. So, I mean, as soon as we released EVE Online in 2003, kind of a year later, everyone is asking us, so when is EVE 2.0 coming out? And then never felt like that should be a thing that would exist. Like, it just sort of intuitively. And that was quite rare. People had done that. There was like an EverQuest 2, there was an Assurance Call 2, etc. And that never really felt like something that made sense for EVE. But even our own employees were getting restless of like, oh, are we going to be working on the same game for years? I mean, no. No, we've done it for decades. It's kind of in hindsight, kind of strange.
Yes.
Yeah, but it didn't really feel like a thing that it should be, and Frontier is absolutely not that. But as the decades piled on, there certainly were things where I started to have like a little cheat sheet of like, if I had a time machine, what would I go and change? Or like, what would I whisper to myself if I could get messages into the past? And there was a point in time where the list was long enough of, okay, we don't have a time machine, but how about if we try to make a game based on the 2020 hindsight?
Yeah.
And what would that be?
Yeah.
And part of that was, for example, as we call it, third-party development in Eve, which is mostly done through an API, which are mostly reads. It's called ESI, was massive. And that was something we were not really planning for. It's something that just organically developed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like deeply embedded into the whole idea. Then there was this whole aspect with real money trading.
Yes.
Which just happens. Whether you like it, don't like it,
Yeah.
it is happening.
Yeah. Markets find a way.
Yeah, life finds a way,
Yes.
Jeff Goldblum style.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, we ban that in Eve, we chase it down and all that. Some of it is, kind of like maybe not beneficial to the game, but some of it is just players of the game doing something they might find reasonable to do, but our EULA doesn't allow for it, and the constructs of EVE Online don't really allow for it. So we have the sort of, as I call it now, open economy. We have the open contribution in terms of like players can build the game. Then there was a lot about the interaction model. So EVE is like all the MMOs of that time, kind of point and click, kind of timer-based sort of interactions, etc. We really wanted to get like more sort of flying the ship itself. And that is like a massive like improvement to our physics engine, and it's a massive thing. Like you have to balance the ships for it. You have to build everything around in the game around that. So it's not something you can like retrofit into EVE. Although, I mean, maybe in some distant future we might be able to bring some of those features in some way into EVE. But at least you need to build a whole new experience.
Yes.
To like polish it, to get it really locked in and all those things. So there was this, okay, the open economy, the open modding, and then all the things we just couldn't do because we had like Pentium 3s
Right.
to build the server
Yes.
and the client software. Yeah. So at some point this was a long list enough. Okay, let's now go ahead. Then also we are big fans of survival games. And survival games are very interesting in the context of MMOs. MMOs are very much kind of this, they're almost like a buffet.
Yeah.
Like they have a lot of different gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like a buffet restaurant. You can have like from pizza to steak to sushi or pasta or like whatever, or ice cream. So, but the survival entry creates a lot more focus in the beginning. And it is a pretty sort of substantial downside of the sort of buffet approach of MMOs.
Right.
Is that it's often a little bit confusing how you begin in it.
Yeah.
It certainly is confusing on EVE.
Yeah.
Because EVE is like a huge buffet of things you could be doing in the game. And we have this tendency of we want to introduce all the different gameplay to you.
Yeah.
I mean, we have gotten better at it over time in streamlining the entry a bit, but it's still a massive project for us to get that right. But when you play a survival game, the loop is just so clear of just like kind of survive the first night and this kind of expectation and muscle memory, like from Minecraft to all the different experiences.
Right. Don't die.
Yeah. So do that more like as a sort of a space survival experience. So that felt to us like another approach to how you begin into the game. And then of course the game kind of opens up and it's a huge virtual world on a single shard with an open economy and modding and all those things. But in the beginning, it is very much this sort of space survival sort of vibe that we're going for.
I love that. You were saying in a previous interview that there was like a bit of nostalgia when you were playing EVE Frontier because it was bringing you back to EVE Online, where it was new and you didn't know what was going to happen, and there was so much to explore and do. So I want to tap into that experience of like how you feel when you play EVE Frontier now and what you're excited about.
Yeah, there definitely was, and it was even for us ourselves when we were playing EVE Online for the first time, like on Tranquility, our main server, because the world was procedurally generated. So when the first person logged in to EVE Online, they were logging into the world for the first time.
Yeah.
And us as well.
Yeah.
We knew nothing about the world.
What's going
to happen? It just came out of the sort of Big Bang creation process we had.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had to run the process with played like examples, but then at some point we just generated the final copy, and that's what we shipped. So there was this enigma about like what is here in the world, where is it, does it all add up, and all these kind of things. And I think also because the game was single shard, that was certainly not something that people were doing. Mm-hmm. The game was also made in Iceland. I mean, there was a lot of like sort of memes around the fact that this game would never come out.
Yeah.
No way some elves in Iceland are gonna make some like single sharded MMO that looks like a movie and like all those things. So I think there was this sense of like, where are the bounds to this? Mm-hmm. So we definitely wanted to create that experience again. So we're going for a world that's a lot bigger. I mean, we might get to 100,000 solar systems. Even the beginning was something like 7,000. No, it was 5,000 in the beginning. Then we added a few added wormholes. And now it's 100,000.
Yeah.
There's a lot more, obviously, variety of what we can do, and especially because you're sort of flying a lot more close quarters. Mm-hmm. Then both each solar system is also bigger, and the world is bigger. It might even be too big. Yeah. But that also gives a lot of sort of runway into the future, mm-hmm. because you might be settling just little parts of a galaxy. That's another thing that we didn't really nail in EVE. There are regions in EVE which mm-hmm. you can't go to. It's largely Jove space, but that is very sort of. It's a cool way to have the map sort of bigger than the map you can explore.
Yeah.
So we were definitely kind of bringing that into it, but very much going for that, like, where does this experience really go?
Yeah.
And then when we add in all the modding on behalf of players, etc., then you don't even know what are the features of the game. I mean, we won't even know.
Yeah.
You just have to try some of the smart assemblies and what's really going on, and looking at what has come out of some of the hackathons.
Yeah.
People do the weirdest things.
Yeah.
Like, there was this one guy, I mean, it's such a cool story. He made a Stargate superhighway through like a major shortcut in the game.
Yeah.
And the only way you could use the Stargate was to bring the dead corpse of his mortal enemy. So in a way, he like combined like a superhighway and a bounty system at the same time.
Amazing.
And when we
revenge.
And revenge and like it's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And this is not a feature we would ever have created.
Right.
We don't even have the imagination. Well, maybe we have the imagination, but this is such an esoteric concept.
Yeah.
Then there was another one who made like this weird, like it was like a stretched skin on something, and if you gave it water, then it gave you crude matter, which you can use for fuel, and it was called like Moisturize Me. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
And there are all these kind of things that people create, mm-hmm. and obviously, I mean, elaborate game modes, corporation management systems, etc. That's another this sort of open-ended angle of like, where does this game really begin and end?
Yeah. To me, that's the beauty of gaming, is that exploration, that creativity, that expression of one's ideas and seeing what can be done. And so I want to ask a little bit about that, kind of from a philosophy-based standpoint with EVE Frontier. You spoke about like the digital physics side of it, and with it being blockchain enabled, with it being the idea of being a forever game. For me, one of the beautiful ideas of crypto that I fell in love with was the self-sovereignty, the permissionless aspect, the full autonomy. Like, I want to be able to do what I want to do. I want to have the respect of like a sovereign individual to navigate the world. And I think that you guys are doing a lot of that in EVE Frontier and obviously EVE Online as well, player-owned economies, like power to the people, democratizing access, and again, autonomy. And so I'm curious how you think about that and are enabling the player base with that. And also the idea of digital ownership. Obviously, EVE Frontier is the model for that with player-owned economies. And for me in crypto, like digital ownership, it can sometimes be like, well, why do you want to own it? But at a fundamental level, to me, it's about property rights. You know, rights are innate as humans. And as we become more digital citizens, we need those property rights enshrined digitally. So curious how you look at that with EVE Frontier.
Autonomy and sovereignty are not really given, they are earned. So these are not natural properties of physics in our own world.
Sure. Yeah.
Like ownership is not a physical property.
Yeah.
There's no Einstein equation for ownership.
Right.
So we have very much replicated that inside Frontier. If you can protect it, you can own it.
Yeah.
But it is always at risk.
Yes.
The world wants to kill you.
Yeah.
And probably all the other players want to kill you.
Yeah.
And if you have your own tribe to create your own sovereign space, that truly is a sovereign space.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no power over it. Nobody
Yeah.
else has any power over it.
Yeah.
But you will have to earn your autonomy. So there isn't this idea of like, what do they say? Like, not my keys, not my coin,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Because that is a promise of, like, for example, Bitcoin,
Yeah.
is that, okay, this is cryptographically sound and it's yours and you don't have to do anything. It's just there. I mean, there are aspects of Frontier which are like that. I mean, the EVE token will largely be like that. You don't have to use violence to protect your EVE token account, but everything else you will need to be able to protect.
Yeah.
So it is a lot like in reality,
Yeah.
for a nation to have sovereignty, they need to have the means
protect.
to protect. Either they have great friends to help them protect, or they have great militaries to protect. And that is more like, because as you said, it's almost a right in a way you can earn, and that is usually, I mean, it's usually done through citizenship in a country, and that gives you rights, but it also gives you obligations.
Yes.
Like you need to play a part in protecting that right.
Yeah.
It is not just something that is floating out there and
Right.
it's some natural property. It just isn't. There are rights and there are obligations, and if those things match up, it is fantastic. And when they don't, then it all falls apart.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I love that. It makes me think of Chronicles of Riddick, the second Riddick movie, where it's like, you keep what you kill.
It's
It's a dog eat dog world, but I mean, that's space. And
and that ties into the survival mechanic.
Yes.
Like, this is a harsh world.
Yes.
It's a fiendish hellscape. What you can kill, you keep.
Yeah.
At some basic level.
Yeah.
We do predict that it will get civilized.
Yeah.
But the civilization of it is something that somebody has to take an active effort in.
Yes.
To create a protected environment for your tribe or for your civilization, you need to have the means to protect it.
Yeah. It's the laws of nature.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love that. I want to talk about smart assemblies because they're so fascinating. I remember reading the first article about EVE Frontier. It might have been Project Awakening at that point.
Yeah.
And I was mind blown because I'm like, EVE Online is making a crypto game. This is the best thing ever. Because we always use EVE Online as the prime example of how player-owned economies can work and how blockchain can enable it. And then literally the company is like, yeah, we agree with you. Like, we see that. Like, you're right. So that's so cool. It's so cool. And so, yeah, in that first article, reading about smart assemblies, I'm like, smart contracts to me were one of the biggest innovations for crypto. Was like, yes, amazing. But then to apply them to the game physics
Yeah.
And everything was so cool. So I don't know, can you talk about that a little bit? Like what excited you about that, how you view that, why that is the future of game design,
Yeah.
at least in eFrontier?
What we wanted to make is something like everything in the world is at risk. So if you build something, whether it is code or something else, it needs to have this pressure of entropy from players or from the world. And then it needs to live in the world. So the problem with smart contracts in that context is that as soon as you put the smart contract there, it's kind of enshrined on chain,
Yeah.
and it's immutable, and it's always there. You cannot really touch it.
Yeah.
So then we wanted, okay, if we take that smart contract and we embody it inside the world, then it needs to live and die by the world physics. And that's where the idea of a smart assembly, I mean, it's really the assembly of the physical object that you
Yeah.
see and the code logic that is on chain.
Yeah.
And that assembly, actually the word is very inspired by assembly theory, which is kind of a concept I was very much into when we were coming up with the name. But it really is a fitting name. It's an assembly of the program code on chain that is enshrined and is eternal, and the living object inside the world. So when you put those things together, then you have something which is infrastructure, which you still need to protect, but you still have the immutability and the enshrinement of a smart contract, so you can largely trust the functionality of what is inside there. But it doesn't have a life unless it lives in the world. And that makes everything kind of subject to entropy, digital physics, and everyone else playing the game.
Yeah.
If somebody has built something in this game which you don't like, well, just gather up an army and go and destroy it.
Yeah. And is it true to say that this just is not possible without blockchain, or where does the blockchain become necessary and integral for this?
So, I mean, you could absolutely do it through some other means. But what the blockchain does provide is this provable, economically adversarial environment. Like if you were to make any platform where you have smart contracts basically in economic warfare with each other, I mean, you would need a lot of validation before you can build on top of that. So we're in a way just kind of adopting the validation of like all the things that have gone on in crypto. I mean, it's not all been pretty. There have been bugs and there have been consequences, and people need to figure this out.
Yeah.
But that has sort of battle tested the technology to a point where we are kind of building on those assumptions.
Yeah.
Like what is below this line of the architecture is more or less proven with like some pretty serious stakes on the line.
Yeah.
I mean, what are they going for? Like, okay, $1 trillion of locked up value.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully Frontier gets to that level, but maybe not in the beginning.
Yeah.
But we are building on infrastructure,
Yeah.
which has largely been kind of battle hardened
Right.
from all the aggression of people doing this for like, I don't know, since 2009 when Bitcoin boots up.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of your core design philosophy of like growth through suffering.
Yes, that is suffering for sure is a part of it.
Yeah.
Like, and that is very much the story of Human Line.
Yeah.
Human Line is a punishing game,
Yeah.
and Frontier even more so.
Exciting. I think one last quick question before we wrap up. I am an advocate for these future technologies in gaming. We love and support the builders, the developers who have the real hard job of finding that innovation and bringing that innovation. So first of all, thank you so much for your work, because as someone who's dedicated my life for every day for 4 years to this space and had a lot of suffering for this growth, this is the growth that we're excited about. But there are skeptics and even people in the EVE Online, players in the EVE Online community. So how do you think about the people who are unsure or skeptical or don't want anything to do with, crypto and blockchain and NFTs, not for tranquility?
First, we wanted to be very clear
Yeah.
that we're doing a game based on that.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, there was a big part of our messaging just so that nobody would be surprised by it for all the arrows we would take and all that. But it was just, yeah, we're doing it. I know a lot of people have concerns, but it's happening. Then I really want it not to be a topic, like after that point. And now we're mostly just talking about the game.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, we're talking about a lot of the details here because you're passionate about those.
Yeah.
But I mean, generally, people don't really care. I mean, I've often used this reference with Eve. Eve is literally the first game ever made on top of a database.
Yeah.
Like, it really is.
Yeah.
People were just writing to flat files on the disk of the server before there was EVE Online.
Yeah.
But never were we pitching EVE Online. Come play EVE Online, the first database game. Like, that was never a thing.
Right.
Because nobody really cares.
Yeah.
And it really should be at that level. I mean, here's a game, you're playing it, exactly how it's made. I mean, for sure, it's all here. You can read the documentation, a lot of good details on that. And of course, if you want to build on it, I mean, you will need to understand Move, you will understand the Sweet blockchain, understand the smart assemblies and all those things. And I mean, the people who want to do that, of course, they just dive in. But we really just want to focus on the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a space survival game. I mean, from CCP with like, well, a lot of like hindsight and passion and stuff poured into it. It's a hellless experience. You're gonna die, and you're gonna suffer. And if you prevail, then you might go for world domination. And that is really what we want to keep the focus. But we wanted to start with being very clear so nobody would like feel like we were sneaking it in or something like that.
Yeah. Absolutely incredible. Hilmar, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
really enjoyed it. Really